The bigger, the better. And I'm not talking about the worm anymore. It's true for most things in life and politics. Bigger factories, great. Bigger planes, great. But what about a bigger population? Well, that depends. It depends on the quality of that big population. That is the message for India from ratings agency Moody's. They have published a new report. It talks about India's demographic challenges. Let me quote from what they've said. The availability and scale of labor inputs alone will not drive better fiscal outcomes. Other conditions such as strong education and quality infrastructure are also key to reaping the benefits. That's what Moody's is saying, and it's not saying anything new. Population has always been linked to economic growth. A young and skilled population pushes the economy up. An old and unskilled one pulls it down. It's either a demographic dividend or a demographic bomb. So which one is India? Honestly, it could be too early to say, but this warning has come at the right time for India. This year, we surpassed China as the most populous country in the world. Our population is 1.4 billion and most of them are young. Around 50% of the population is below 25 years of age. Around 65% is below 35 years of age. That's prime working age, possibly the most productive years of an employee. But having a young population is one thing. Putting them to work is another. For that, you need both quality and quantity. Does India have that? According to this report, not yet. Let me quote again. There remains a considerable gap in the quality of education between Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, compared with China and other peers in Southeast Asia, which contributes to labor force participation imbalances. That's what the report says. And how big is this gap? Reports say India's elementary school education is 20 years behind China. That is a big gap. India's literacy rate is around 74%. China is at 97%. And this gap persists across all levels of education, elementary, high school, and colleges. And the comparison with China is important. It's the only country that matches India in demography. Also, both had a similar starting point, the late 1940s. But there is a key difference. China's population has already peaked. The highest point was in 2022. From now on, China's population is expected to shrink. It is aging and leaving the workforce. India's case is the opposite. We did not have draconian one-child policy, so India's population will have to peak organically. And when will that happen? By 2064, according to the United Nations. By then, India's population could be 1.7 billion. That's a lot of people. The key is to give them a good education and jobs. And the type of jobs matters. You see, as a country develops, you shift from agriculture to other sectors, like factories or services. But India's pivot has been slow. Around 45% of India's workers are employed in agriculture, and farming makes up just 18% of the GDP. Do you see the problem here? India needs to put more people in non-farming sectors. And how do you do that? By improving the quality of education, by training people and imparting skills. Some of that is already being done. For instance, the government says around 50 million people have been skilled under various programs like the Skill India Mission. 50 million. But the target was 400 million. It tells you how big the challenge is. India is well placed to make a giant leap in economic growth. Investors are moving away from China. Factories are looking for new pastures. So it is the best time to capitalize. But to do that, you need skilled workers. You need a population that has both quantity and quality. And the emphasis must be on the grassroots. India's elite colleges have always been the gold standard. What we lack is primary education. Consider this. India made primary education compulsory in the year 2009. Do you know when China did it? In 1986. The gap is around 23 years. But do not worry, all is not lost. Experts say India's new education policy could bridge that gap. It could make our bigger population also better.